All right. Well, today I'm here with Jeff Eschliman. Uh, I don't want to steal his thunder, but he's somebody that's provided me a lot of inspiration lately, especially with the content that I've been producing on LinkedIn and YouTube. He's somebody that I look up to in that area. But I'll let Jeff introduce himself. Jeff, if you could, with a few fun facts as well.
Take it away.
Take it away, sir.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm Jeff Eschliman. I'm currently a vice president of operations for a home building company. I passed through 30 years just September of last year, which is, admittedly a little bit of a unicorn in today's society, let's just say, to be not only at one organization for 30 years, but then again for the type of industry that I'm in, which is home building, which is very cyclical. So that's a little bit of an anomaly, but I'll go back to the start for me. So the start for me was, really young. My dad was a house painter, so I've been on job sites since I was actually about 8 years old. I really grew up in his shadow. Like, he was teaching me, the core values of not only life, but quality work and workmanship and doing your best and all of these things that ended up, playing out in my life. And I did that through high school. At even in my senior year, I just felt what I call a calling, that I wanted to serve, and so I enlisted in the United States Army before I'd even graduated high school. I did their delayed entry program. I only wanted to do 2 years because,
Okay.
even though I was patriotic and all that, like, I didn't really kind of want or need the college money. And I just wanted to serve, but I didn't want to do the typical 4-year gig. So the only thing that you could get that was for 2 years had to be combat related. And you could be like a medic, or you could shoot anti-aircraft missiles. But I was like, just give me the infantry, right? So I went in
No
the
big deal.
infantry. Yeah, exactly. So I went in the infantry. I joined this very, peacetime army. But while I was in the service, Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait. So I found myself in Saudi Arabia. I found myself in Iraq. I was 20 years old when I was coming back from Iraq. And I knew, at that time, that I'd seen and been asked to do the worst things that I'd ever have to do my whole life. And now, looking back at age 52, that's still true today.
Yeah. Oh,
And
can't even
so,
imagine.
yeah. And so when I got back to the States, I was actually involuntarily extended while I was in Iraq. So I ended up doing closer to 3 years than the two. Uh,
Okay. Is
but
that
when
a
I
stop
got back,
loss? Is that what that would be?
yeah, I'm sure that's probably what they
Yeah.
call it. Yeah. And so they call it involuntarily extended in my day. So
Sure.
when I got back here, I went right back to the same painting job. My dad, the whole, just picked up where I'd kind of left off. I happened to be painting jobs out on a particular builder job site. And somebody said, "Hey, we have this position opened up as an assistant superintendent." So that is where my home building career started. And that was in 92 when I got out of the service.
Okay.
That's the organization that I just passed through the 30 years with. I
Wow.
spent I spent a decade plus in the field building homes, so managing job sites, building homes. I started moving into like progressive levels of management and leadership. I became like a area manager, and then I became a director level where I was running construction for the whole organization. And then in 2012, I got promoted to be a VP of operations. So I've done that for over a decade. And that's running not only the construction, but the warranty, the purchasing, the product development, the safety. And so I've had this kind of well-rounded career, and really kind of fun, because the builder that I started with, it's been the same organization the whole time, but I started with a private company that then got acquired by a big Fortune 500 company, and Weyerhaeuser was the company. and we
Okay.
got bought in 2006. So I became a part of this, Fortune 500 company, which at the time I thought was going to be terrible. Like I thought, they bought my great little company and they're going to ruin it. But it ended up being the opposite. Like I tell people, the scales were pulled back from my eyes when I went to work for this big organization. And Weyerhaeuser's over a decade old company that is forest products. And I used to jokingly tell people, like, I work for a company that grows trees for a living. Like, they have a long-term vision for the future. So anyway, that company ended up getting acquired by my current organization. And so I've been on a journey now, of this last probably, I'd call it 5 years of like deciding that I wanted to do something different, even though I've been kind of what I call this unicorn position. I
Yeah.
also, I could have very easily done, I'm 52. I could have did another 10 years or so doing what I'm doing and, making really good money and all that. But I just feel compelled to do something different. So I'm moving my way forward to coaching and consulting. And I've been coaching and I've been consulting now in the little sliver of time that I call my spare time for about 3 years now, and just really enjoying it. And if you want, we can talk more about where that love comes from. It's really all of the time that I've spent in my career. And honestly, my career is such a big part of like my skill set and my mindset and just where I'm at today. So I'll pause and see if you want any more
Yeah.
color on any of those.
Yeah, well, for sure. Definitely a lot there. A lot of color that I want to understand a little bit. I guess um, going back real quick to your time in the Army. 2 years ended up being 3 years. Um, any particular highlights there that you think you learned back then that you were able to that you're still using today? Anything that you took from the military experience to um, what you have now?
Right. Well, number one would be discipline, just in general, but not just discipline. I like to jokingly tell people or ask people, is discipline good or bad? And the
Mm,
short answer is it's both, right? There's
yeah.
I think it was Warren Buffett said, the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken, right? And so that articulates the difference between the pain, what do they call it? Like the pain of regret, right? Versus the discipline of, whatever might be hard in front of you. And
Okay.
so this started playing out for me a little bit like on a high school football field, where the element of teamwork and then the element of like pushing your own body and your own mind beyond what you thought was capable. And then when I went in the service, it was 10x, right? It was being put into situations, in all the way from basic training to the drills that we did while we were, in peacetime, to what played out on a battlefield. They're all just slices of the same thing, right?
Right.
And again, I'll come back to like it's your mindset, your skill set, and how you put that into play. And it was when I got out of the service, not to say that I was bulletproof, but I had a mentality that said, there's probably nothing in life that I can't accomplish. I've seen these, terrible things, and I've worked together in the, like, I don't know if it's the ultimate, but maybe like the penultimate, version of teamwork playing out on a battlefield where it's life or death, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, after playing in that environment, it crystallize my mindset on how life would be going forward. And so the discipline is number one. And
Yeah.
then the second is the teamwork element. So again, got a taste of that on a football field. It really went to a whole other level in my military experience. And then I was able to take all of those experiences and culminate them into how my career played out. And so I would get put in these situations, whether it would be a project manager on a home site, building homes where I had to, leadership 101. You have to cast a greater vision. You have to get the people coalesced and rallied around what that vision is. And then you have to monitor I think again, I tell people like, well, one of the keys to my success is I've been able to like give people a hand out, right? Or give
Sure.
people a hand up. And I've also been able to put a foot in the other direction, right? And I'm good at both, right?
Yeah,
And people need both. Some individuals, depending on what day, might need a hand on their shoulder for condolence, and the next day or a week later, they might need a foot in the other direction, to get them off the dime. And
that's
then
right.
there's some people in life that just, I've come to the conclusion that not everybody is capable of doing the standard that needs to be met, and I'm pretty good at sorting the weeds from the chaff, if you will. So
It's also an important trait, definitely in the leadership. I think that's really where you've culminated. You spent all that time and all that experience to turn you into where you are today as a leader. And I also want to just mention that idea, that bulletproof mentality that you had when you got out of the military, that you can accomplish anything. I love that because I think a lot of us veterans feel that. It's something I certainly felt when I got out of the military. Still a lot of nerves and fear about what could happen, what could go wrong, becoming a civilian. But I feel like that bulletproof mentality, a lot of people have it when they are in the military and right before they get out, and then all of a sudden they lose it. They forget everything that they've done, all the crazy things that they got to experience in the military, and then all of a sudden, they did things in the military that the average person never gets a chance to do,
right.
and now they're civilians and they forgot that they've been capable of doing much more than they'll ever have to do again.
Right. And
So
one of my kind of hallmark sayings is, it's not the knowing, right? Because most of us know what to do. It's
sure,
the doing, right? And that's the like when you separate from the service, you're so used to being surrounded by like-minded people. You're around people that have been doing what you're doing. You're involved in another big part of what my success has been, which is systems, right? And maybe
yeah,
we'll talk about that a little bit later on what
certainly.
success looks like. But when you're using systems in your life, whether it's the systems, go back to those chains that I was talking about with from the beginning, it's it's the habits that you develop for yourself, and some of those get obviously forced upon you in the military, where you have to work in a system or it doesn't work, right? And then when you get out of the service and you get back into the like rest of the real world, there's all kinds of systems running. Now, you can find that kind of thing by working in like a corporation, for example, where they have a lot of systems, although it's not the same kind of rigor. I mean, in some ways it is, but in a lot of ways it's not. Because like let's just take the physical demands, right? The physical demands that you get placed on you in the military, like where else other than being maybe in like law enforcement, maybe, and that's maybe why a lot of people gravitate from the service to things like that. But
Seems
where else?
logical. Yeah.
Yeah, where else can you find something? When you go to work for a big corporation, they don't have physical demands that you and if and again I well, not again, I haven't said it yet, but like
Okay.
I've had experiences in my life. All of this good stuff that I'm telling you is just the good stuff, right? It's not I didn't tell you about the bankruptcy. I didn't tell you about when I was 125 pounds overweight or the divorce or any of these things that I've had in my life where, and that my example is like lost your way. When I got out of the service and I got married and I had 2.5 kids and all this, and then I don't have the physical element, right? And then the next thing you know, I'm not PTing every day, and I'm in a relationship that's not that great, so I'm drinking too many beers, and I'm gaining a little baby weight with each baby, and then the next thing you know, I'm 125 pounds overweight, and I've been there, right? And
Hmm.
so it's not hard to lose your way,
Yeah.
but I've fortunately for me, I've been smart enough to read some better books and get around better people, and make some better choices and take some better actions.
Oh, that's key. I mean, it's very easy, like you said, very easy to lose the way. I can completely sympathize with that. I've been there as well. I'm going through my weight loss journey right now, and goodness, you mentioned a lot of things there about habits and doing things consistently, having a system. I need that in my life. Otherwise, I don't have a way. I'm just doing random things if I don't have a system. Going to the
Yep.
grocery store, if I don't have a system, that's the difference between a $400 grocery bill and a $100 grocery bill. And I'd much rather pay $100
Right.
more consistently, especially with how expensive everything is these days. So no, that's key. And I think um, so. The couple things that I wanted to go back to then from there, um, before we get deeper into systems and habits,
Sure.
where did the passion come from to get into coaching and this mission that you're on now?
Right. So I'll go back to when I was in the field building homes,
Yeah,
and I didn't realize this till it happened to me, but when I started making my way more through management and leadership and I got into these other positions, I ended up having this like feeling of lack because I wasn't delivering. When you build somebody a home, arguably it's one of the biggest purchases you'll ever make. It's this, like visceral feeling that you get when you move into a new place. It's all the way back to, Maslow's hierarchy of needs and your own security and where you're going to have your family and all these things. And, I got genuine satisfaction in taking an empty lot and turning it into not only a home, but this beautiful finished product that you were giving the customers the keys to, or, little Johnny picked out the bedroom that was going to be his, that kind of thing. And when I went into the field and I got into management and leadership, I was missing that piece. And this took years for me to develop. But over the years, what not only replaced that feeling for me, but superseded it was this feeling of working with individuals or groups of people and getting them to realize a different level of performance, like what John Maxwell would call like level 5 leadership, where you are growing other leaders. Or I used to tell people, like when I was a mid-level manager, I really got satisfaction in not in fixing things that were broken, although that's, management 101 is fix things that are broken. But I really developed a love for taking things that worked well and finding a way for them to work even better. And I really tapped into this love of what I call operational excellence, right? So doing not perfect, but playing at such a high level. And usually operational excellence is like, if you can, and my own definition is, if you can be working all the metrics, quality, safety, throughput, customer satisfaction, profitability, all of these things, if you can be working these in a top quartile performance in your own subset industry, that's operational excellence. And for me, Nick, that's my holy grail is operational excellence. And through this kind of journey that I was on to try and reach that, I became, I've started developing myself to start with, again, my own skill set and my mindset on how it was going to be. And then working with others to do the same thing, individual people, groups together. And I got really, really good at all of those parts and pieces. So that I look back now at the hundreds, maybe thousand people that I've been able to influence, right? That's the word that I love about leadership is influence, right?
yeah,
And so that I've been able to influence people in their careers and have some small part or maybe a big part in their career trajectory. Or I got them to look at a position that they thought was out of their league, or I got them to maybe see how they could create, not just the next level on the rung within the corporation, but how could they bring what I love, which is harmony in my own life, like having a great family life and a great work life. Like I don't have a family life and a work life. It's my life, right? And they're all a really big and a really important part of that. So having that all working is, yeah, that for me, the leadership and the people really ended up superseding that kind of visceral feeling.
Got it. And that's yeah, obviously operational excellence, seeing people perform at a high level, not perfect, but to the best that we can in all those different areas. And so now there's a mission to, I'm assuming this, to copy and paste that into the lives of others across several different industries. Is there a certain type of person that you are aiming to work with? I know I said a lot there, but I guess
Sure.
what is your mission now with coaching?
Yeah, my mission is really just to take the message and so really it's the systems that I've put together in my own life and help other people. My ideal client, if you're asking that
Yeah,
specifically, is
definitely that.
probably going to be like a CEO or a founder that has built a, small, medium-sized company. They have 50, 100 employees. You would look from the outside and say, like, wow, like this is a successful person. Like they're running this successful organization. But that person, my client, that this founder, the CEO, couldn't imagine taking a 4-day weekend, right? Because if they got out of there on a half day on Friday, by the time they came back Tuesday morning, the place would be a wreck, right? Like, so if they're not in the business, the wheels are coming off the bus, right? And
Yeah,
so, what with what I've been able to create in my career, I can help that founder, I can help that CEO create the kind of business that runs, and it doesn't have to run without them. That could be their choice, but it can run where they could take a 4-day vacation. They could take 2 weeks and go to Italy, right? Because that's generally my client. The clients that I've had so far are the kind of folks that are running those businesses. And they're like, here, my business is successful, right? And I've got, money in the bank, and the business is doing well. Like I would love to take a 2-week vacation to Italy, but I can't even take a 4-day vacation because I'll come back and the place, will be a wreck. Or
yeah,
if it's not that, I've got another client who, the business and all that is doing great, and they could take a 4-day vacation, if they wanted, but they're still so much in their business. Like this client I'm thinking about played golf in college, right? And he's 43, I think. And he played golf with his buddies in college. But now looking back, like in his current day, he hasn't played golf in like 5 years. And we were talking the other day, and he's like, Jeff, I just want to go play golf. And I'm like, well, let's figure out a plan where you're going to play golf, man. Like you could work that in with the stuff that your kids have got going on. And so anyway, that's typically who I'm working with now. And that's where I see myself moving forward.
gotcha. And that's huge. I mean, you create a prison for yourself if you don't create the right systems so that you can be successful and have that right balance in life.
Right.
And I think that's probably what you mean by what systems and success look like. But I guess if you could describe briefly what your process looks like with somebody like your friend that wants to get back to playing golf, how do you, I guess, sort through that in the beginning and then help them create their ideal system and ideal state?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this at the outset. I have not found a one size fits all. Like
Yeah.
I share what I do with my clients. I share my systems. No one of my clients uses all the parts of my system. No two of my clients use the system in the same way. It is so specific to their situation, their marital status, and if they have kids at home or don't, and what type of business they're operating, and where, what region of the country. Or I'm working with people out of the country now, which is super cool as well. So and that's been a fun thing too, to explore and find out more about other cultures through business and life conversations. So that's been a lot of fun. So I usually start with exploratory. That's how it starts for me. I call my coaching style bespoke, right? So it's we interview, we find out. I'm first of all a focus on the fundamentals guy. So I ask people questions like, so tell me about, eat, move, sleep, gratitude, four things. On a scale of 1 to 10, how's your nutrition? Are you moving? How's your sleep? Do you have a daily practice of gratitude? Give me those on a scale of 1 to 10. And a lot of times, again, I'm working with very successful people, so they're checking the boxes on those at a very high level. Or somebody might say, like, hey, it's the fitness part, Jeff. I'm working, so many hours here, and the first thing we'll do is find a way to start walking around the block, and then you don't have to go run a marathon, to check any boxes here. Again, it's all like very tailored, to individuals. So I'm a focus on the fundamentals guy to start with, because I believe if you don't have the fundamentals right, like if you don't have your health, like why be working on the business? Because, like if you don't have those parts, it it's all got to work in harmony, right? Nobody wants to be the richest guy in the graveyard, right?
Oh
So
my gosh, yeah.
yeah. So focus on the fundamentals, and then I'll just give you my core three principles, my core three systems. And so the first one that I have is called the one-page plan for life. And so it is literally a one-page document where, and this is where I help, you know, a lot of people have a vision for what they want in the future, but a lot of people don't, right? And so for me, it starts with vision of what you, and a lot of people they don't even feel, what's the word, maybe worthy, right? Like a lot of people like, well, I couldn't create a vision that's that big, right? It's like, well, why not? Like, and that's what I found in my own life, and I've had to kind of push through. And so it starts with vision, but then it really gets to clarity, because if you have a vision of something that's five or, well, I'll give you one of my big high level visions. I'm going to live to at least 103. So I've picked
Yes.
at least the year that I'm going to live to. And why is that important? Because I'm 52, right? So I'm just barely halfway there. And I'm saying at least 103, right? I don't plan on falling across the finish line. Like I mean, with modern science and with what I've learned about my brain and my body and all these other things, I don't think there's any reason that I shouldn't live to 103. But you know what that does is it guides my decisions of what I'm going to do in 2023. It guides my decisions about what I'm going to put into my body or what I'm going to think today, right? So big picture vision, but then you got to get clarity. And that's what a lot of people lack is clarity. Even most like CEOs and some of these folks that I work with, they have a bigger picture vision. That's how they built a business. But sometimes they don't have the clarity, and they have the clarity in their business, but they don't have the clarity of what life's going to look like in quote unquote retirement with their spouse, or how this business is going to get sold, or how this business is going to scale and the employees are going to buy it, or how your son Johnny is going to take over the business, or again, all of these things are bespoke, and they play out in that way. So that's really what the one page plan is about, is vision and clarity. Okay. Step number two is my day of Zen process. So, day of Zen for me, my tagline is check out so you can check in. So, I'm going to tell you what I do, not because I'm recommending this is what everybody do, but I'm going to tell you what works for me. I take a day every month where I check out. And when I say check out, I mean from life, from my 11-year-old to my wife to my current corporation. If I say day of Zen, they all know that's code for you're not going to get me, right? Not online, not on the phone, not a conversation. You're not getting me because I'm going to go away, right? And so when I say check out, I mean like away from my house, away from my office, like off the grid. And I have so many written goals, probably 5 times more than anybody that you know. I have that many written goals because I'm trying to do that much in my own life. And so my day of Zen is really what it's all about for me is reflection and planning. The reason that I do it on a monthly basis is a month is a good chunk of time, Nick, right? Like
It
you can
is.
get a lot of stuff done in a month. You get a lot of stuff done in a week, right? But how many people do you know in life, right, that are going to turn the page on February, right? Or tear it off the calendar and they're going to say like, "Can you believe we're already 2 months into this year?" How many people say that, right? Like I never say that, right? Because I am super focused on the first half of the day of Zen for me. Number one on my list for the day of Zen is make sure the next day is scheduled because what gets scheduled gets done, right?
Right.
And so what I do in my day of Zen, I take the whole first half of the day from the morning through the midday, and it's a complete review of the previous month. And I'm talking about all my goals. I'm talking about all my roles. I didn't talk about roles. So I have these roles in my life that I call Jeff, like my personal fitness and all these things. And then I've got husband and father and grandfather and VP of ops and coach and friend and son. So I got a lot going on in my life, right?
Certainly.
Like I challenge anybody to try and accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. Like I try to be the poster child for, living, be the example of what I'm trying to preach, right? And
Yeah.
so I go through all my goals, I go through all my roles, and then it's everything. How my sleep score for the whole previous month, my money in checking, my money in accounts. It's all the vital metrics. I don't like do my blood work every month, but my body fat percentage I check every month. Is it up? Is it down? Is it where I want it to be? Do I need to toggle this any different? And then the whole second half of the day is plan out to crush that next month. It's build the goals, it's the actions, it's and the reason I have this checkout so you could check in, Nick, is I like to think of life being played well as you remember the old plate spinner, right? So imagine you've got plates on a stick and you're spinning them around. And a lot of time that image gets thrown out for having too much on your plate and then plates start wobbling and falling off the sticks, right?
That's right.
So what I've been able to do is create a life where it's just the right plates on the stick, right? It's not, and this is how people get in trouble is they'll take on something else big in their life. They'll say yes to a commitment that, and something that seemingly, seems like the right thing to do. Like I'm going to coach little Johnny's soccer team, this year, this season. And then the next thing you know, you're throwing time and energy into coaching the soccer team, which is an admirable thing to do and pretty cool to do. But then the next thing your personal fitness is suffering. Remember how we talked about, like foundational stuff, right? Like if you're not taking care of your own fitness, but you're coaching your kids soccer, that's everything's a decision and it's a trade-off and it's very unique to individuals. I never tell anybody what they should do. My job as a coach is to ask good questions about what they're doing or ask good questions about what they're thinking and then either give tools or systems that they can implement. Like I don't give anybody the answers. I just talk about like how things can work and then I help with tools and things of that nature. So that's the day of Zen. And then the last piece is what I call carpe diem, right? So if you're not familiar with carpe diem, that's Latin for seize the day.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I haven't used this word yet in our conversation, but intentional, right? I try to I try to lead my life in an intentional way. And when I do that, guess what I get? Predictable results, right? And so my carpe diem, it has everything. If I don't know if you're familiar with John Wooden, used to be the UCLA Bruins, most winningest coach in college basketball history.
Oh yeah.
The guy never talked about winning. He talked about focus on the fundamentals, right? That's why that's so important to me. But what he also talked about was making each day your masterpiece, right? How do you have a great week? Have a great day.
Yeah.
If you have great weeks, you'll have a great month. If you have great months, I'm going to have another year. Like 2023 is going to be the best year I've ever had. And it's not an accident. It's part of the vision, it's part of the system.
Right.
Carpe diem. Seize
Wow.
each day.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's that. I want to recap some things there. So
Sure.
the so part of the system, obviously the bespoke fundamentals: eat, mood, sleep, gratitude, all keys. Can't fix the other smaller things if you don't fix those big things first. You've got your one page plan for life, which I love. I don't know if you've ever heard of Carl Richards, but he's one of my idols in the world of financial planning,
Hmm.
and he wrote a book called The One Page Financial Plan.
Oh.
And a lot of the things that you're saying right now remind me of a lot of his principles as well. When it comes to it is not financial planning shouldn't be about selling products or getting people to give you a bunch of money. It should be about making sure that their money is doing what they want to accomplish and what that means for them in their lives going forward. He also says things about like when you were talking about your vision, he calls that a statement of financial purpose.
Hmm.
And he talks about goals as guesses. We think about something that's 5 years, 10 years, 50 years from now, whatever the case may be. It's a guess. And we're going to get clarity over time as things develop and change in our lives. We're going to adjust the guess based on new information. So I love the idea of creating your goal and then establishing clarity over time. I love 103. My goal is 100. My great grandmother lived until she was 101 almost. So
Fantastic.
it's a beautiful thing, but same thing. Every decision I make is with intentionality so that I can make sure that I get to that big goal that I have, just like you. Day of Zen, huge. Reflect on everything that you've been able to accomplish, goals and roles over the last month. Um, and I've used another motto for this, but like the things that you're juggling, I think is very similar to the right plates on the stick. You can only handle so much. Everybody has different capacity for what they can handle, and some can handle more or less. But choosing what you're going to handle with the juggling or having the plates on the stick, I love that. Um, because yeah, you can't keep them all spinning. It's impossible. Um, Carpe diem, intentionality. Those are a lot of really, really key elements to fixing anything and improving any type of system that you have. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yep. The one other thing that I might just add to that, you
Yeah,
mentioned like with the plate spinning
yeah,
and you can only handle so much. The other thing that I found about not only the reflection piece and that is what's about keeping the plate spinning. And I also don't want, the listeners to think when I talk about spinning plates, I'm talking about some hedonic, like the winner is the one who can spin the most plates
right.
or make the most money or any of that. Like again, my philosophies on life are about harmony. So how do you have all of these things in harmony? That's why I go through the roles, right? Because
Yeah.
my role as a son, at least while I have two living parents, is, but you know what? That's a fairly finite amount. They're in their 70s and their 80s. So my role as a son to me is actually at its probably zenith right now. Like I've only got so much time left to be a son, but
Mm,
how much time do I have left to be a father or a grandfather, right? And so all of these roles, those are all, plates that are on. And the other point where I really wanted to make, so, not hedonic, but then the other point that I wanted to make is when you grow your skill set, you can you can do more, right? That's just like leadership
Oof.
101. Like I believe like in personal development, leadership development, when you grow your own skill set, it's basically, the people get paid for solving bigger problems, right?
Right.
When you can solve bigger problems, or when you can do it. I mean, I do like the solving problems part, but the way that I love to think about it is in that proactive way, right? Where you're casting a greater vision, you're holding a higher standard. My, again, motto would be operational excellence, right? And when you're striving for those things, you're playing the game at a very high level, right? Or proverbially spinning more plates or bigger plates or more important plates, or, you insert your own analogy, right?
Certainly.
But
Yeah.
my closing point on that would be, you can always, and I mean at age 52 or age 72 or 22, you can grow. And that's one of the mistakes, honestly, that I made when I got out of high school. And then when I got out of the service, is I thought I had enough knowledge to get a job and do these other things, but it didn't dawn on me that I wasn't taking care of the fundamentals. And then what did dawn on me through my management and leadership career was that I could continue to build my knowledge, my skill set, and my actions, and that I could pretty much do or be anything that I wanted to.
That's huge. Yeah. That's big advice right there. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it's not about juggling as many balls as you can or spinning as many plates as you can. It's about prioritizing those things that are most important to you. And
Right?
great example, you only have so much more time to be a parent, be a son. And so that's got to be pretty high on the list, right?
Yep.
So you
Yep.
got to prioritize things that make sense towards the top, and get rid of the things that don't make sense so that
That's
you
right.
can handle the rest, you know. Um, and the growth in being able to improve your skill set. I found that in my role as a planner, what I'm doing, I'm able to find out a lot more about people than I did in the beginning. It would take me 2 or 3 appointments to talk to somebody to find out the same amount of information now that I can find out in one appointment. So
Right.
just getting better,
Asking
optimizing.
better questions. Yep.
That's key. That's key. And so I know you've got a lot to look forward to coming up. Um, I don't want to spoil it. I want you to be able to share what's coming up on your horizon. What's the future look like for you, Jeff?
Yeah. Basically taking it. It's essentially what I've been doing. It's just
Yeah,
more of an entrepreneurial journey, right? I've been working with individuals and I've been working with teams the entire my entire career. And basically I'm transitioning away from the corporate life so that I can have some more autonomy myself, and basically I'll get to spend 100% of the time doing the 80% of the stuff that I love, and I won't have to do the 20% of stuff from the corporate world. But it's taking that message of hope and growth and focus on the fundamentals to my clients. I do it within my clients, within my coaching business. I'm also a part of an accountability group that we've been growing the community on. It's just, I'm having so much fun.
that's wonderful. And the big R word coming up. That's you're leaving what you've been doing for the last 30 years to be able to focus on this more full time very, very soon, which
Yeah.
is
So
so exciting.
I retirement only in the sense that I'm retiring from my home building career, but I've
Yeah.
got a lot of gas in the tank and I've got a lot of things to do, and that's my next mission.
You're gonna enjoy it. You enjoy doing this. It's like some people look at work in a couple different ways. You're doing it, but you're enjoying it. So is it really work? You
Right?
know, it's definitely a positive action that you get to pursue. So, and I guess maybe at some point, if it becomes a chore or it becomes work, then you reevaluate. But I don't think
That's
that's
right.
going to happen for any significant period of time. You definitely have a torch that, as I mentioned early on, um, I saw your content on LinkedIn, and that inspired me to get active on LinkedIn so that I can share and echo stories for fellow veterans. And I really appreciate you taking the time today. I want to make sure, is there anything that you wish I would have asked you? Is there anything that I missed that you want to make sure we talk about before we close out the conversation?
Well, I mean, you'd ask about like any big accomplishments,
Yeah.
and I just received an award last week, which was pretty cool. It was a safety champion award that my current organization gave me for my work in job site safety, which to me is pretty special because I've had this notion through the second half of my career that I wanted to be able to leave the industry that I work in better than I found it. And I think now looking in the rear view mirror for me, I can say that with, and I don't necessarily need the accolades. I can see it just in the performance of the team that's out there building homes, not just in my region, because fortunately through these growth and evolution within my organizations, I've been able to have more of a national influence on safety, which has been, so humbling and so powerful for me. And I just that was really kind of the cool culmination for me. And now I'm working towards the vision on how I can do that same type of thing, but even broader than my organization. So that's how I'd close is a little bit more because I'm always trying to create the next vision for myself and to raise the bar and like what am I going to need to do? It's not just what am I going to need to do. It's more like who am I going to need to be, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
live into that vision.
What a great accomplishment. That's a national accomplishment that in your industry and in the work that you do that you were able to achieve right at the end of your time where you've been for so long
Yep,
as you get ready to start that next chapter. That's
absolutely.
so cool. So well, Jeff, thank you so much for sharing everything today. We'll continue talking for a few minutes after this stops recording, but please reach out to Jeff if anything that he said stands out. If you want to hear more about what he has to say, he's got a lot of good things to talk about. So
Yeah. And you could find me on LinkedIn is probably the most prevalent social platform,
yeah,
or my website, which is jeffeschliman.com. So JEFFESCHLIMAN, jeffeschliman.com, where I've got information that I post about the processes we talked about. It's a place where if you want to connect with me, offline, that's a great place to do it.
I'll make sure that information is in the notes of the post. And awesome. Look forward to continuing to collaborate with you in the future, Jeff.
Looking forward to it, Nick.
And everybody, yes, everybody, have a great day. If I can figure out how to stop the recording.